A beautiful Tuesday afternoon. We are back on the pulse. We had the rains this morning. It's so drizzling in some parts of Accra, and the reason why we have a conversation around flooding this afternoon. My name is Elton Brother. Welcome to the pulse here on GhIE News. GhIE News, independent, fearless, and credible. My name is Elton Brother. Now, this afternoon on the program, Ghana Institution of Engineering warns against potential loss of lives and property to floods if government fails to implement flood preventive measures as the rainy season sets in. We will engage leadership of the institution for possible solution here on the pulse.
We're already behind schedule on the flood control program because of resource constraints that we have had. I have inherited a flood control program that is behind schedule. As I've told you, even what we are doing is just about 2% of what we should be doing in the Greater Accra.
Also in this bulletin, we ask, can Ghana break the long-standing government duopoly by the NDC and the MPP? Stay as we put a spotlight on some other smaller political parties reorganizing themselves ahead of the 2024 general elections. And of course, later in the bulletin, work on the Tamale Central Ultra-Modern Hospital project stalls following Japan International Cooperation Agency's inability to secure a tax waiver from government to import logistics for work to commence.
Information we are gathering is that the GhIE wants a tax waiver from government, which is not forthcoming, and that is what is holding them from starting the project.
And of course, we have other stories on the power crisis in the country, what government is doing to, to deal with it, and plus other stories. The pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Digilu, affordable, safe sanitation for all. We are live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV 125. On our social media handles, you can watch us live on Facebook, YouTube, and myjoyonline.com for these and more. Stay on, because we have a lot for you. It's exciting Tuesday afternoon. My name is Elton Brother. We are settled and we are ready to go. You can join us with your comments, questions if you have via our social media handles, Facebook, YouTube, myjoyonline.com, and we'll deal with the matters on hand this afternoon. Now, the rainy season is here, and this morning we had a rain. So drizzling in some parts of the capital. And for many living in flood-prone areas, it is safe to say you must brace yourself for the peak of the rainy season. The Ghana Institution of Engineering is warning against the potential loss of lives and property to floods if government fails to implement flood preventive measures. They have outlined 5 key measures authorities could implement to avoid a flooding disaster. Key among them is a proposal for the Metropolitan Municipal and District Assemblies to collaborate with National Disaster Management Organization to conduct extensive public education campaigns on flood safety and preparedness through national and local media. Executive Director of the Ghana Institution of Engineering, David Nyante, will be joining me in the studio shortly, together with his team and other key measures the institution is proposing. But first, let me bring you back excerpts of my conversation with the Works and Housing Minister, Kojo Ponkroma, who indicated that it was too late to combat the floods this year due to inadequate resources.
To break your heart, but we're already behind schedule on the flood control program because of resource constraints that we have had. I have inherited a flood control program that is behind schedule. As I've told you, even what we are doing is just about 2% of what we should be doing in the Greater Accra.
The last time we checked, the amount of money involved runs into billions of cedis.
It's $200 million. So yes, if you do the conversion, it'll run into billions. It's a $200 million project funded by the World Bank. That's a GhIE project. But what has actually been released or spent is not up to $200 million. But the implementation has been slow for a number of reasons. I think just last week I met the contractors and the coordinator, Dr. Ohene, to urge them to quicken the pace of work with what they are doing now. I mean, if you go to the Kaneshie areas, for example, all the work that needs to be done there is not even been done yet.
Yes.
And so until it is done, and to do that, we have to do the engagement with the people, pay compensation to project-affected people, secure the land lots that we need. We have to do detention ponds that will arrest water coming from the hilly areas of the Greater Accra region. So there's a lot of work to be done. Not all of it has been done. We are running as much as we can. I'm sure you see me every time with the contractors, chasing them, trying to get their payments for them so that they can deliver. But we are behind schedule.
So therefore, we'll have to endure it for
at least schedule
for the next few years ahead of us.
We are behind schedule. We will do our best with the resources and time that we have, and we'll make a case for more resources and some more seriousness in getting the work done so that in the shortest possible time, it will be a thing of the past. Remember that flooding is a combination of things. A, the water channels to evacuate water, and two, a certain level of rainfall. When you have inordinate amounts of rainfall,
there's nothing you can do
even
about
with the best channels. I mean, look at what's happening in Dubai.
I was just coming to that.
Yeah. So I think we must also have that.
Supposed well-planned city.
We must have that at the back of our mind. So we will do our best with the resources and time that we have. We are behind schedule, and we will move as quickly as we can within the constraints.
So that was my conversation with the Works and Housing Minister last week. And already we're beginning to experience the rains. And from what the Metro Department is telling us, it's going to be quite heavy this year. So the flood issues obviously going to dominate the headlines for some time to come. But what are the facts as we have it? Our research team here at GhIE News, they've put together some data which best capture the severity of the lack of resources to deal with the flood. Data analyst Isaac Kofi Ajay joins me in studio with more. So Kofi, this information we have, this is a cabinet presentation done by the Works and Housing Minister, presented to the President Akufo-Addo's cabinet, detailing what the situation, what must be done going forward. Walk us through them.
Well, so Elton, just like you spoke to Kojo, the issue has to do with money. And just like our power situation, our floods, if we really want to solve the seasonal flood, we need some sort of resources, money, to be able to actually combat this situation. Now, we have here a cabinet document prepared somewhat 2021, and it details the total amount of money that we will need to sort of, solve the problem a bit or try to put the problem under some sort of control. And this starts from 2021 and 2024. And you spoke to Kojo and he said that this program actually is behind time.
Right.
And since we did this in 2021, this was a projection. So in actual terms, since it's monetary and we've seen how the city has misbehaved in the last 2 or 3 months, it tells you that even the 2.7 billion Ghana cedis that we've actually, anticipated or estimated that could solve the problem in 2024 could be high. Now, you begin to look at the total amount of money or the allocation from 2021 and you see how it changes. It tells you that going forward, we will need more money in 2025, 2026 to solve the flood situation.
So, for example, in 2021, we required 888.3 million Ghana cedis. Then it moves to 2.4 billion Ghana cedis. Then we have 2.6 billion cedis, and now we are looking at somewhere at least 2.7 billion. Currently, if you want to deal with the flooding issue, the monetary value, how much we require, will be 2.7 billion Ghana cedis.
Yeah, so if we are very generous or diplomatic and we want to convert to dollars, $1 to 10 cedis, we should be around, let's say, $270 million. But this moment, where are we going to find that $275 million to solve the problem? We know it isn't just flooding that's the situation, the problem at the moment. We have the energy sector crisis that we are currently looking for money to solve that one as well. But whenever there's flooding, the Greater Accra region takes majority of the hit.
Right.
And you could see that in terms of the allocation, majority in 2024 would have to go to the Greater Accra region. The biggest percentage, 890.2 million Ghana cedis is needed to solve the flooding situation in the Greater Accra region. The Ashanti region follows with 350.3. And you see them there, all of them in 2024, you need close to about 2.7 billion Ghana cedis to solve the problem. Let's look at other regions that featured in that cabinet document. So we have the Volta region being the least, but it's still an important area because some sort of flooding occurs there. We just saw the spillage last year, and we are still trying to find monies to relocate people and also reimburse people. But you need about 160.7 million Ghana cedis to also it helps solve the problem in the Volta region. So in total, Elton, at least some 2.7 billion Ghana cedis is needed.
What is required. Yeah. And now, just also going through the cabinet memo, they say that the estimated cost, that's $5 billion of fixing a drainage network, increases with each year of underinvestment. The benefit of investing now far outweigh the cost. The value of assets at risk in Greater Accra region alone is $3.2 billion. Could quadruple to $12.8 billion by 2050 if steps are not taken now to improve resilience. By extension, the total value of assets at risk across the country could run into tens of billions of dollars.
Absolutely. So it means that the earlier you solve the problem or you put measures in place, the better. And the more you wait, the more the cost also balloons. Because this is the at least situation. We are even talking about possibly drainage. But per what you are looking at, there's also some sort of estimation from the IMF, and it's in line with this $5 billion that you are quoting. We don't have the money, but we want to solve the problem. But how do we do it? So that we'll get answers.
We'll get answers. But again, the crucial part of all of this conversation is that after this cabinet presentation, the minister followed up with a letter to the finance minister, where he makes the point that the ministry applied for issuance of commencement certificate to commit the government of Ghana to the tune of 888 million Ghana cedis for the implementation of the 2021 Emergency National Flood Control Program to address the serious flooding challenges being experienced across the country. At a presentation to Cabinet on the state of the country drainage infrastructure, the minister detailed the urgent need to embark on the 2021 Flood Control Program. But interestingly, the minister comes to the conclusion that the finance minister, despite 3 notifications on the same matter, not a single cedi has been disbursed to the ministry for them to undertake this particular
but this is also a ministry that, each year they receive a lot of allocations from the budget, but the problem has to do with the disbursement. And clearly, if we do not disburse the money, work will not actually continue, because we've seen some work being done, but there are arrears to even clear. So we are not even done talking about arrears clearance and to talk about new projects. And so, in as much as the finance ministry is there to help all ministries, when they are constrained, you see that it only doesn't happen to this part of the problem, but also the energy sector as well, where currently we know how much the finance ministry would have to cough up to pay for the top-ups, about 1.3 billion Ghana cedis. And we need to solve the problem, but it has to do with money.
Kofi, thank you very much. And in the words of the current Minister for Works and Housing, Kojo Opongme, we are absolutely late in dealing with the flooding matter in this country. But what can be done going forward? In the studio this afternoon, as we explore this matter and to try and find solution to this perennial issue, is Engineer Kwabena Bimpon, President of the Ghana Institution of Engineering. Mr. Bimpon, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And of course, David Nyante, also from the institution, also joins me in the studio. Mr. Nyante, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And it's always a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thank you.
So we've laid the facts bare.
Right.
From your engineering point of view, are you surprised with the figures that we put across before we go into your statement and recommendations that you put across?
Well, thank you very much for having us. And the figures that were put out there, I'm not in the least surprised, in the sense that if you underinvest over a long time, at the end of the day, it is like a moving target. It's not going to wait for you.
Right.
The problems are not going to wait for you. You would have to probably double up to meet the challenges. So just like your analyst said, if you don't invest now, you invest later. And it keeps on ballooning. So yes, it's not surprising that we have such figures required. But I just want to make a point that we cannot continue just to construct drains out of the problem. Let me just end it there. We cannot construct drains out of our problems. We need to do something more.
More about that. Mr. Nyante, is it an issue of lack of proper planning, or just that, in terms of priority, it is somewhere else instead of dealing with this perennial issue?
Well, our urban development is not complete. It's late, and like you said, it keeps being postponed and postponed because of money issues and things like that. So that is one issue. But there are other issues to the drainage situation, which includes our behaviors and also awareness. We need to be aware of what the situation is. For instance, which areas in Accra are prone to flooding? Do the residents there know? In case that place is getting flooded, what do they do? What contact numbers do they have to, call? And so on and so forth. These are things that can mitigate it. Now all we can do is to work towards mitigation, and protecting lives and property. That is the focus we have. We cannot fold our arms and say we are late with construction, therefore we will do nothing. We still need to protect life and property.
You have warned that there's a possibility that people may lose their lives, property may be washed away and all of that. How did you come to that conclusion?
Well, luckily I've been around for more than 50 years.
Right.
And if you look at the papers, okay, you realize that for decades and probably centuries, Accra has been flooding. And now a place like Kumasi wasn't experiencing flooding. But now look at the list that you put out. Out of the 16 regions, about 14 are experiencing flooding. And even the one about Ho, I've been in Ho and I've seen flooding. So it tells you that it is not, you don't need a soothsayer to tell you that this is going to happen. It happens every year. And if you look at the data, you don't need anybody you don't need to be clairvoyant to know what is going to happen. And it is because we have not actively involved, as David said, the populace to have an understanding of the situation. Maybe we have an understanding. Maybe we have made attempts to solve the infrastructural problems, because the infrastructural problems keep on increasing.
Right.
And remember that climate change is also another thing. Whilst you are trying to solve based on the data that you had for the past 40 years, now climate change has come to add onto it. So now the volumes are increasing.
Right.
And once these volumes are increasing and you have not done anything to it, obviously your problems, if it were X in the past, is going to be 2X. And this is where we as an institution would not want us to fold our arms and say, well, we have not constructed drains. And remember the statement that I made, that we cannot construct drains out of our challenges.
Out of our issues.
Yes, I know GhIE project is in.
Right.
But then there are other mitigation measures, which may be engineering and may also be the social aspect. Which,
so let's start from the engineering aspect, because this is your area.
Now,
have we done, in terms of the way we've engineered the cities?
Yeah.
Is it to your, appreciation, or we've gone it completely wrong?
Maybe David should come in before.
Well, it's dynamic, and there's improvement all the time. Yeah. But what do we have, and what can we make of it? As of now, most of our roadside drains are choked, are silted up. When it rains, you know that the capacity of the roads are narrowed, becomes smaller because these drains are silted up. The water cannot flow through, and then it's on the road. The capacity is already reduced. So those are things we need to look at the infrastructure we have. How can we make use of those infrastructure we have? How do we clean them? How do we make them more efficient? So that we mitigate the issues that might come with not having all the infrastructure we require or we desire to put in place. So those are some of the issues. We already have some bit of infrastructure. That bit of infrastructure we have, we are not maintaining properly. So we are not even getting the benefit of that. So how then do we add on to it? Probably we add on to it with more infrastructure, and then we fill it up with rubbish.
Garbage,
right.
So it is our behaviors, and then our awareness, how to behave properly, how to all get involved. This is a societal thing. We are not talking of only Accra. Takoradi is also flooding.
But the level of engineering, is it up to standard?
The level of
engineering,
the engineering,
the engineering foundation, is it up to standard?
To look at a drainage system is quite a complex thing. You cannot just look at a section of it and say this is up to standard. That will require, some. I'm
asking that question because the questions always come about whether or not our engineers have helped us in dealing with this matter, or this flooding may be an indictment on the competence of our engineers. That's why I'm asking the foundation, the engineering aspect of it.
Let me come in here.
Right.
Look, when it comes to drainage, it works in the form of a network. You cannot tackle one part of the equation and expect that the whole problem will be resolved. It starts with planning. Have our cities been properly planned to ensure that when it rains, the waters find their ways into a logical outfall. If you do not have the capacity, or the drains do not have the capacity that is required, you probably would want to hold on by putting in detention ponds. These were all planned. If you go to the Pantan area, okay, there were detention ponds or detention areas which were earmarked for detention. That is, when the waters come from the burials, I'm just using Accra as an example, they have to be held. When the rain event has passed, then we release it gradually to get into the sea. Remember that the southern parts of Ghana and, of course, Accra, some areas are below sea level.
Right.
Now, when there is high tide, the waters that are flowing in through the drainage channels are unable to get into the sea. And therefore, there is what we call a backflow. When there's backflow, it's going to cause flooding. But like David said, it is good. We need to have all these drainage structures and all that. And I will give you, I was telling him, before we came here, that I just came back from China, in the Guangdong province, yesterday. And I was with a Chinese lady, and she showed me a picture of flooding. I said, hey, does it flood also in China?
Well, we'll come to deal with recent development, including even Dubai.
Yes,
which is supposed to be one of the most well-structured cities in the world. But recent events, as exposed their readiness to deal with this matter. It floods also in the United States and the UK.
Yes, in the UK.
So we'll look at...
But I just wanted to make a point that it is not only about engineering. Of course, if you talk about the social aspect, maybe they are not doing that. But then there's another thing, and that is what David again mentioned, about preparedness, that when such an event occurs, what do you do?
And that will be my next question.
Yes. So what we are saying is that we need to know the flood-prone areas. We need to get people to be aware. The forecasting, we need to get data out there in terms of forecasting these heavy rains so that people in flood-prone areas can take action. And in times like that, what do they do? Do they understand what they have to do? Do I know the risk areas in Accra so that when it is raining or there's impending rain, I don't drive into that area?
Are you able to tell us some of the risk areas in Accra?
Well, we all know that Jolu is a risk area, but I do not know all the risk areas in Accra. But it's good to know, so we should share this information. This is information that I believe NADMO has, and they need to make it available to the public.
Circle always surprises me because of this, the outdoor drain, which is so big. I mean, from a layman point of view, you should be able to take as much water as possible. Yet, the slightest rain and then the whole place is flooded.
Remember that the outdoor drain is not draining only Accra. And I give the example, it's coming all the way from the eastern region, from the Kapim hills. So all rains that fall within that area would find their way through the tributaries of the Odo River all the way into the sea. So it is not also about the size. And Accra, the Odo River is less than okay, don't use engineering figure, but it is almost flat. Then that's the best thing to say. It is almost flat. And when it is flat, that is where you have sedimentation. Because remember that a lot of our areas are unpaved. So when it rains, it carries all the silt load or the sand into the drains. And when the water is flowing very fast, the material or the sand or silt will be in suspension. But when it gets to an area where the slopes are very gentle or probably flat, then it will begin to settle. And that is why you would have a big drain or a big channel like Odo, but it is probably half silted.
Half silted.
And if it is half silted, the capacity is reduced.
And the responsibilities will be placed on who? I remember, I think in 2021 or earlier than that, I accompanied the president to the silting process at that time.
Yes.
As a presidential correspondent. The engineer who was working on the process updated the president and told him that the end game, is to deal with this flooding issue. If he went on to made promise to the effect that they were going to turn the place into like the Thames of London.
Yes.
Where we'll have speedboats and restaurants along the river. Now, several years on, the place is as bad as it was.
Yeah, it has to be a continuous improvement process. You cannot work on it today and go to sleep for the rest of the year. All our infrastructure has to be maintained on a continuous basis, and that is the only way you can benefit from the infrastructure you put in place. So if you put in the infrastructure and you don't maintain it, you don't get the benefit of it. You understand? So we need to maintain our infrastructure. What we have already, let's desilt it. And we are calling on all the agencies with those responsibilities to take action. Deal with the desilting, create the awareness, give the information on the safe havens if there are flood risk areas, so that people know what to do. We shouldn't be surprised when the rains come in and there are flooding in certain areas. We should know those areas. So it shouldn't come to us as a surprise. We should know how we prepared towards it, and if we weren't very efficient in that, next year we learn from it and improve upon it, and so on and so forth. So that is what we are calling for. That let's all be mindful that the rains are coming, and with climate change, the rains are heavier, more frequent, and the durations are longer. You could have very severe rainfall.
But Mr. President, in the last 10 years, let's say from 2014 up until now, will we say there's been improvement or the situation is getting out of hand? And so we'll put on our screens the recommendations that you have come up with so that you walk us through. But in the last 10 years, and the volume we've recorded, the destruction and everything, will you say that we have improved, or we are stagnating, or the situation is getting out of hand?
Well, when the Odo drain or channel was constructed, I happened to have worked on the Circular Chimota Road, and I remember very clearly in around 2003. Okay, so that's about 20 years ago.
Right.
And also, my old man, my father has a furniture shop, Cape Pond Furniture Works, around the blow-up area. And ever since I was a child, I've known that area to flood. Our workshop always flooded. But then after that construction, it eased, which means that it was working. The engineering solution that was given was working. Down the line, it happens again. It has started and now it's getting. So it's more like a sinusoidal wave. But then it demands that we desilt our channels. It is not enough. That's why I said it's not enough to construct. You can construct 1,000 meters of drains. But until you maintain it, for it to be at it was at the time of construction, then you are doing nothing. But let me also add that the Odo River, and for that matter, other drains drain into the sea. That is our outfall point.
Right.
Now, they have to go through lagoons. The Korle Lagoon, if you remember the Korle Ecological Restoration Project, and that's what I believe the engineer was talking about, having the Thames of London. Even Thames also has its own challenges. But then, that project did not come on. You know that there were challenges, legal challenges by the Fadama, those who were, I don't want to call them squatters, but then obviously that's what they are. And because of that, that project, which was a Kuwaiti fund also, did not happen. Now, you can construct all the drains that you want. Where is it going to outfall into? It gets to the Korle, and for that matter, other lagoons, and it's choked. Apart from the challenge that we have with the control, measures. I studied in the Netherlands, and they have flood control measures where they have, apart from their dikes, they have at the end, that is where it drains into the sea. When there's high tide, it is closed. When we have low tide, it is allowed to open. But if we do not have a detention pond, that will not happen. Something like that was constructed by, I think, TASEC some time back, but it's not working. It's not working. If you remember when the floods, in the water, lower basin happened, there was a particular, gate that is flood mitigation gate that was not open. Later on, it was open.
Yes.
So there are systems which are in place, engineering systems. But these systems, we love to construct, but when it comes to maintaining and ensuring that they continue to work,
it becomes an issue. All right, we'll come back to deal with the role of government, the role of the assembly, and then the general public. NADMO is getting itself ready to deal with the matter. But you've got some recommendations that you are making to the Ghanaian public, and we're going to have that on our screens very soon. My guest this afternoon, representatives from the Ghana Institution of Engineering, and among the recommendations that they are making as we prepare to welcome the rains, they recommend that metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies promptly repair and desilt existing drainage structures to prevent overflow and blockage. Is it the case that most of them are blocked?
Oh.
Mr. Nyante?
I think that is obvious. If you walk around, you see most of the drains are choked. Most of them, are quite blocked. I think that we need to maintain.
And the reason is financing, or the commitment is simply not there, or we don't place so much premium on the effects of flooding because we become accustomed to it.
Yes, we wait until it happens and it's like we are surprised. But how are you surprised when your drains are blocked and choked with silt and other garbage? They need to be maintained so that you can get a benefit of those drainage structures. And if you're not cleaning and maintaining them, why are you surprised the place your areas are getting flooded? So those are some of the issues. These drains and drainage structures, the culverts and all those things need to be maintained properly.
But the point is that the assemblies, they have a key role to play in this particular discussion.
Precisely.
I remember when this flooding became so pronounced and people died as a result. President Kufuor had visited some of the areas and he said he was going to set up a desk at the presidency to receive reports, and then if it is established that a particular assembly conduct may have been responsible for the flooding, that particular DC will be sacked and then prosecuted. And that was the end of that announcement. We did not see the setup of that office. Flooding is still ongoing. People are building indiscriminately, creating the platform for these things to happen.
Okay. So at least now we are drawing their attention to the fact that these things must be done. These are all not new things. These are things that should be done regularly. All the points we've listed are not new things. They are things that should be done, on a consistent. But we are being proactive. We are reminding them that these are things they have to do. The rains are coming. So we should, do some of these things too.
But is it negligence on the part of the assembly?
Okay, so
Mr. President?
So you know what? Coming here, one of the things that I tried or I want us to avoid is apportioning blame. Yes, each and every one of us has a role to play. I have a role to play. That is why I'm here. The assemblies, the MMDAs have their own roles. Individuals who live in communities have their role. Maybe for somebody, his role is to call the attention of the assembly. The Ministry of Works and Housing also have a role to play. The Roads Authority or the Ministry of Roads and Highways also have the authority. We can all work in concert to resolve or at least to mitigate the action of flooding or the impact of flooding. Yes, flooding may come, and I just gave you an example of what has happened in other areas. But I didn't finish with my statement on China. When I asked, they said, and actually I read that they have what they call a flooding season. You go to the US, they have hurricane season. It's come to be part of their ecosystem.
Right.
But then what do they do about it?
We'll come back to exhaust the recommendations and then maybe the way forward. But let me bring in Mr. George, he's the Director of Communications at the National Disaster Management Organization, and he joins us via Zoom. Mr. Isi, it's always a pleasure to have you here on the pause. Good afternoon. And I'm just wondering, we had some rain this morning, and from the prediction coming from the Met, we are likely to see more this year, not more. Always at as one of the first respondents when we have this issue of flooding. How prepared are we that this year we will not dominate the headlines? Mr. Isi, if you can kindly unmute for me so we can hear you loud. All right, so we'll bring Mr. Isi back on. We'll get his attention and then hear from him. Not most preparation towards what is likely to be another cycle of lamentation. But let's walk through the other recommendations that you have, especially for the public.
Okay. So then we can put that up.
Yes, exactly. And then we'll wait and bring that on your screen right now. The other recommendations that the Ghana Institution of Engineering they've made as we look forward to the floods. We've spoken about it. It says so you want education collaboration with the National Disaster Management Organization for that extensive public education.
Yes, so what we are saying is that the MMDAs and the NADMO should create the awareness among the communities. give them the information that is helpful to them to prepare for these floods when they come. So if there are areas are in flood-prone areas, let them know that these areas are flood-prone. And also designate the safe havens so that they can move to those areas when their localities get flooded. So all these kind of information needs to be passed on to the various communities. And also, we need to get them information ahead. If the weather forecast is such that there are going to be heavy rains, let us get it to them. We can send out mass text messages to certain localities. I think the district assembly, some of them send bills by mass text messages. These are ways they can communicate to their residents.
The element of climate change, how, as a country, are we ready for it? Are we taking cognizance of the fact that it is a factor that we must address?
Yeah.
Well, so in view of what is happening around the world.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Climate change is real. And as I did mention, if you look at weather pattern, in terms of, heat, in terms of rainfall and all the other elements, they are not as they were some years ago. And we are having, high intensity rainfalls. They are longer duration, and they are causing much more problems than they were in the past. Right. So it is something that as a nation
we need to deal with. I'll come to ask you about how do we explain what happened in Dubai. But let me quickly bring in Mr. George GhIE. George GhIE is Director of Communication with NADMO. Mr. GhIE, it's a pleasure to have you here on the pulse. We are discussing flooding. The expectation is that this year it will not make the headlines. But from NADMO point of view, how prepared are you to deal with this? Should you find yourself as one of the first respondents? Yes, Mr. GhIE, if you can hear me, I was asking from NADMO's point of view, what is being done as the rain begins to set in?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I listened to the engineers. What I want to put on record is that NADMO has a flood hazard map. We have a flood hazard map. So we know the areas that are flooded or likely to be flooded when there are heavy rains. And so that's for the record. NADMO, again, partners assemblies to do the silting and dredging of the major drains and the other smaller drains. So that is, I agree with them. It should be a continuous, and we've said time without number that we need to do continuous dredging and desilting. That's the only way that the drains will be ready and respond appropriately when the rains set in. Otherwise, as they said, as the flood waters go, they carry the sand and soil with them, and as the velocity reduces, they begin to settle and the siltation takes place. So you can see the drains almost silted because of sand, not because there are some other debris and go thrown into the water. Again, the 2015 reports, the twin disaster reports, there's a recommendation of construction of retention ponds, and as the engineer said, which then will be spilled gradually after the rains and to reduce the flooding. Yes, NADMO, we do community engagements for the records again. We have identified places we call safe havens, especially in flood-prone areas. And then we have also conscientized and sensitized people within the communities where those identified safe havens are on how to assess these safe havens. And so, yes, these are engagements that go on within the localities, and there's continuous engagement so that people know where the safe havens are and how to assess them in times of the rains and flooding. I
know that your role primarily is to manage disasters, but you can be more effective in your role if you get the collaboration you need from, for example, the regional coordinating council and the district coordinating councils. As you make your recommendations to them, what exactly do you expect from them as we tread this road?
Yeah, the district chief executive of every district is the chairman of the district disaster management committee.
Right.
The regional minister is the chairman of the regional disaster management committee. And so mostly, almost all NADMO offices are located within the district assemblies offices. And so that is it. We work in partnership with them. There are certain decisions that ought to be taken, which NADMO is not clothed with the powers to so take those decisions. And so when we identify such problems, we defer it to the district assembly because they are clothed with the powers to take such decisions. For instance,
like
if
what?
somebody builds our new Act 927 empowers us to take steps to demolish or whatever. But then since we don't have the legislative instrument to so enforce those things, we cannot take action. So we have to defer to the district assembly who are clothed with the powers to take those actions. So we work in partnership with the assemblies. And when there are some drains that are choked, and when there are some drains that are collapsed, some time ago I was invited to the Paloma area. Major drains in those areas had caved in. The walls that were protecting the drains had caved in. So we went in to look at it, and we had to send a report to the AMA to take action on those ones. So we work in partnership with the assemblies. Where NADMO does not have the power to so act, and the assemblies do, we make the recommendations to them to so act.
And I can imagine the frustration you go through when you are limited in enforcing some of the things that you really want to enforce. But you get the support of the assemblies, especially when you have to demolish a structure that may be posing a danger to a lot more people.
Yes, but we have to operate within the laws. And so if you read the new act, there are very, very advanced, forward-looking powers that have been given to NADMO. However, until and unless the LI comes in, for instance, if you, the host, you've acquired your land and you need to construct your building, a disaster officer must come and assess the land, whether the kind of building you want to put up there. I believe the engineers also do that. Whether it's good for the soil texture to carry that building. Is it 1 story, 2 stories, and co? When we do that certification, then we can clear you to go ahead and build. And when you build and you want to habitate, before the habitation, an officer will come and then inspect it and say, yes, indeed, it's good for habitation. All these powers are there, given to NADMO, but we cannot utilize it until there is an ally, and you're right. So sometimes too, we work in partnership with the Institute of Engineers as well. There are certain things we need to, for instance, the structural integrity of buildings. When you have buildings in areas that are cracked and cool, and we need to recommend to the assembly to pull them down.
All right, but my final question will be, eventually resources will be a key matter in this enterprise.
Before you can take the final report to the assembly to act on it. So we work in partnership with them.
Do you have enough resources this year?
Resources, yes. You see, government has been retooling us in terms of getting the equipment that we need to function properly, like water pumping machines, the dormer machines for cutting trees that are felled, and all that. It's something, but resource in terms of relief supplies and co, there's more to be done because we have about 4 warehouses here in the capital, and then all the 16 regions we have depots that we call where we do pre-positioning of relief items. Our 4 warehouses are now completely filled to capacity. And so when there is an emergency, we need to get restocking. And then the pre-positioning too, we need to do pre-positioning in all regional capitals before the rains set in. They've started, but the main rains and the ones that cause havoc set in so that we can help victims who have been affected. So we need to get more resources to be properly positioned to respond adequately to the disaster matters.
My pleasure, Mr. GhIE, Director of Communication with NADMO. Thank you very much for your time. And as we come back to the studio to wrap it up with my friends from the engineering, Ghana Institution of Engineering. So, I mean, the minister says we are late. NADMO says, well, we'll do what we can do. You've made your predictions and advised accordingly. What should be the way forward, sir? Let me start with Mr. President.
Well, our residents and those who live within these areas, they really do know. They don't need a map, which is good, but at least they are aware of what happens every year. My advice is to them is that they should be cautious and take their own destiny into their hands. They should not move, in flood waters. When they see the floods coming, if there's a need to relocate, they should relocate, especially during this rainy season.
What about some human activity that contribute to this and lack of political will to enforce the rules and regulations? People build in waterways and they are allowed to have their life because of maybe political connection here and there.
Yeah, well, we are in an emergency. That's what I have to say. We are in an emergency. Those are issues that would have to be dealt with at a much later date. But whilst we wait for the bigger things to be done, let us take our destinies into our hands. If you have drains in front of your house that can be desilted by yourself, please go ahead. Don't wait for the assembly to come. That's the way I want us to look at it. And for those of us who drive, sometimes you see floodwaters and you think that you have a big car, you're going to drive through. Some people have lost their lives as a result of that. Let us be mindful that water is very, very powerful. And we do not have to play with our lives.
Mr. Nyante?
Yes. So just like he said, we should be aware of the dangers that can be posed by these floodwaters and take appropriate measures to protect ourselves. I believe that the media can also help us sensitize the public so that they know what to do in these times and stay safe.
All right, thank you very much, President of the Ghana Institute of Engineering, and of course, Mr. Nyante. Last week...
He's also an engineer.
He's also an engineer. Last week, you had issues with the Ashanti, the matters happening in Kumasi. There was a deadline for the minister to apologize, which is ending today.
Yeah.
What will be your expectation?
Well, we haven't heard anything.
The minister hasn't apologized. The matter is still before the police.
Yeah.
The ECG staff said they will wear red armbands to show their displeasure. They've asked their managers in the Ashanti region not to cooperate with the regional minister, including not attending regional security council meetings until this matter is resolved.
Yes. So I think the engineering council is involved,
and
they are dealing with it. So I'm sure the minister will do the needful. Everything.
The time is almost 1 hour more for the apology to come through. But I'd like to say thank you very much for coming through this afternoon.
Thank you.
And so we've been talking about flooding and what we need to do with the onset of the rains. The Ghana Institute of Engineering, they've made some recommendations to the government. The minister says we may be late, NADMO says it is ready, but you have a responsibility to protect yourself if you find yourself in such a situation. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll talk politics and the role of parties we describe as smaller parties, their contribution, what they are doing to deal with the NDC and PP duopoly. We shall be back to deal with that adverse matter. This is your election headquarters, and we are gearing up for election 2024. But in the ever-evolving political landscape of Ghana, a formidable challenge is emerging to break the long-standing duopoly dominated by the National Democratic Congress, that's the NDC, and the New Patriotic Party, MPP. Other political parties are reorganizing their front to become the third force, if there's anything like that. But what will it take? On the pause today, we'll unpack the policies of few of these political parties, looking at breaking the duopoly in Ghana's political landscape. Hassan Ayariga is the presidential candidate of the All People's Congress. He joins me in the studio. Also is Courage Nobel, acting director of communication for the Movement for Change, now called Alliance for Revolutionary Change, after merging with other interest groups. He joins me in the studio. We'll also be speaking to George Chumbarema Adu, an independent presidential candidate who was also bidding to lead the country in January 2025. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Mr. Ayariga, so you finally got your nomination, waiting for the Electoral Commission to open the process so that you can file and contest the election as a candidate of the APC. How has it been so far after the Kumasi Congress, and what have you been up to?
I think after the Congress, we've been touching base with some of the communities, the youth, especially. We're trying to make sure we get to all the universities, have interaction with the students, and then present to them our policy for education and the future of the youth. And then we are also planning to go to Boku, where I come from, that is ending of the month, to start the main campaign from Boku.
Right.
From the Upper East, where we move from the Upper East down to Upper West through northern regions, Savannah, Bono East, come to Ashanti, and then come back to Accra. So we have a packed timetable for our campaign. And then we've been also doing the media.
Right.
And currently we are putting up our own media house to be able to get information out there. Because largely, the minority parties do not get the kind of coverage the major political parties are getting. And that is a disadvantage to the minority parties because they are unable to sell their policies. Meanwhile, they have the best policies. But because NDC and MPP have big platforms, the concentration of the media is on NDC and MPP.
But now you know there's also new media. Social media is also becoming very viable too. Now.
That's what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do, we're building our own media house in the office that will follow our campaign and rather give the information back to the media houses like yours. Because a lot of content have been said from many of the minority political parties, but you don't hear it.
Right.
For instance, 24-hour economy. We have it in a 2020 manifesto, in 2020, and we've been hammering. But it wasn't heard until when President Mahama said it. Digitalization, we have it under e-governance. We've been talking about it every day. No one heard about it. But when the bigger parties make one statement, the media are quick. For instance, we have one major policy. That is one of the biggest policy Ghanaians should be discussing. Economic lockdown by the APC. I don't see the media discussing it.
Economic lockdown.
Economic lockdown. This is something everybody should be interested to know. What is economic lockdown? How is it going to benefit Ghanaians? How is it going to transform our country?
Tell me a bit about it.
Economic lockdown. Yes, you see that we import over $1.7 million of rice every year, over $100 million of tomatoes and canned, and we import fish. Everything we consume in this country is imported. And the reason why our cedi is depreciating so badly. Now, if you take Ghana, for instance, we've become a dependency. Okay, inflation is high. What do we need to change this trend? In order to change this trend, the APC has outlined 5 major policies for changing this trend, even though we have 60 policies. It's first, the Ghanaian first. The mindset of Ghanaians must change to believe that we must begin to produce whatever we need and consume whatever we produce.
Domestication, if you like.
Domestication. And the mindset. We need to have a mindset of believing in Ghana first and the Ghanaian first. If we have that mindset, then we have the capability of changing. Without changing our mindset, no matter what policy you bring on board, it will be zero.
Is this policy different from what government attempted to do before Parliament went on recess when the trade minister wanted to introduce this restrictive bill that was to restrict the importation of certain items, including rice?
No, that is just you trying to limit the importation. But in this case, we are not trying. The lockdown is not about limiting importation. The lockdown is about encouraging and promoting and producing whatever we have to produce. This is how the lockdown is. People lock down because of certain reasons. In the last pandemic, the world locked down because of COVID-19.
Right.
That was the reason for the lockdown. And most countries locked down. Now, with our situation, we are having crisis. And our crisis is economic crisis. So we are locking down because of economic crisis. So we have to lock down because of economic crisis, grow our whatever we consume, change our consumption pattern. So, for instance, if we import more rice, let's begin to grow our own rice. Grow cassava, maize, millet, fufu. We eat it with all kinds of yam and all this. So we change the consumption pattern and begin to produce cash crops, okay? And feed our country and make sure that we become an industrial nation, a manufacturing hub, and a production hub. Once we are able to achieve that, we now open our market to the world. By that time, we have achieved a lot. This lockdown is to say Ghanaians must lock down. One, I will lock you down to be able to produce for your citizens. I will lock you down until you your nation. I will lock you down until you feed your nation. I will lock you down until you house your nation. I will lock you down until you produce good infrastructure for your nation. I will lock you down until you are able to get enough electricity to supply. Lock you down until you produce the best water. This is the purpose of the lockdown.
Right. Right. Let me bring in Courage, your initial comments before we get into the main issues. And already you are battling with this, news conference. 6,000 supposed members of the movement, they say that they've gone back to the MPP. Let me allow you to respond to that with your initial comments.
Thank you very much, Elton. It's always a pleasure to be on, and greetings to your viewers and to the Honorable Ayariga. I think you are meeting us here for the first time. But I think the movement for change is very focused on its agenda to make sure that we topple the duopoly. I mean, 32 years, 16 years apiece, the destination is only two, DUMSO and IMF. Clearly, they lack the kind of creative thinking that can bring the transformation that the Ghanaian people want. We've not seen that in the past 32 years. So it is time, and this year's election is extremely important, and it is the best time to have this change happen. And that's why, led by the colossal Alan Chematin, unblemished character, a man of solid integrity, but most important, the man who has a plan. He says, this is my plan, and this is how I intend to transform this nation, to move it from poverty to prosperity. And that is what we are all galvanized behind. So it is out of loyalty for nation, loyalty for country, and that is why we are all on board this agenda. In pursuing that, it would be naive on our part to think that everybody who probably for the excitement of the time came on board would not lose steam along the way, And so it comes to us as no surprise at all that 3 individuals out of all of us have decided to go back to the party.
They claim they are 6,000.
I always say one thing. When you interview them, ask them to name 30. We have a robust database of all our people. We know where they are. We know how many we have in each region. We know which towns they are in and who they are. So you can't just off the cuff just say 6,000. So no, who are they? Where are they? Even the 6 persons who granted the interview or had the press.
The news conference.
Yes, we only know 3. There were 3 other people that we have no idea who they are. They are not part of us. They've never been part of us. So it's...
and you are blaming the MPP for influencing these guys with money.
But we had picked intel as far back as the beginning of this year that the ruling party was going to come at us, and the strategy is to literally bribe some of our members, particularly those of us who are on the front line, to return to the MPP, so they can have a narrative that suits their purposes. And so we have been really watching. Some of the people who are going, we are not surprised because we've been seeing their movement. We've seen meetings they've had with people and all of that. And we're just waiting because, see, what we are trying to do is revolutionary. You cannot undertake a revolution with weak minds, with weaklings. No. You need men of conviction. You need people who have the strength of character, to keep the agenda and to keep focused on it. So it is actually a win. It's a gain for us that some of these weak people have fallen off. It strengthens us. It means that our processes, our systems are getting tighter and tighter because those are the entry points. Those become your weak points. So when the weakest fall off, it really strengthens you, and then you're able to keep your focus to execute the agenda. Nothing will stop the revolution that is coming this year, and you're focused on delivering that. The government has failed. It's not been able to deliver on its own promises. But
Mr. Ayariga, on that score, you represent your own political party. You are the candidates of this political party. And you yourself alluded to the fact that the MPP and may be well established. This new wind that is brewing, I don't know whether the APC is there a consideration of some kind of measure, or you are capable of going on your own?
For us, the APC, we are a party. And they are a movement.
Right.
Political party, we have about 10 minority political parties. We are working on bringing all these 10 minority political parties.
These are like PNC, CPP,
yes,
and the rest.
All that. So we've had these discussions. I think the last time I met you, we had this discussion. So let's see. Let the movements let all of them also come under one umbrella, one movement, and the minority parties also come under one umbrella, one party. Then we have 4 that we can see how Ghanaians will make that decision. NDC, MPP, the movements, all of them under one umbrella, the minority parties all under one umbrella. We have 4 political parties. And I don't think if these 4 political parties should go into the election, NDC and MPP will have a chance.
If these political parties?
They won't have a chance. Look, we've done a lot of research lately. Believe me or not, the NDC and MPP have strong members of between 4 million and 4.5 each. That is their die-hard party members.
But put together, that is more than the voter population.
No, but that is more than the voter population for them. It's because they have also floating voters who then add. But they have 4.5 million die-hard members who will not make a change, whether to NDC or to NPP. But unfortunately for the MPP, he sitting down here is an MPP member. They've moved out of there.
I used to be.
No, I'm coming now.
All right.
So you used to be an MPP member. Definitely. They've weakened the structure of the MPP one way or the other because some of them are moved. The perception of the movement alone, moving out of the party, can weaken your strength. Are you getting what I'm saying? Even if it is one person moving out, it can weaken your strength. You remember when I left PNC in 2016 and what happened in 2016 election and 2020. Now, if we look at these 4 parties, 4.5, 4.5, there's a huge third force out there numbering almost 6 million Ghanaians who have refused to either vote for NDC or vote for MPP. And these people are looking for hope. They are looking for political parties, minority parties to merge and come under one umbrella, and they will support with them. Or any movement they think that if this movement is good, they will support. So the danger now is that how are we going to make sure that 7 million people come out to vote? If we are able to convince them to come out to vote, then I'm telling you the NDC and MPP will be either second and third.
And how are you doing that when the tag on every politician is that of thievery and corruption?
Good. And that is why you need credible leaders. You cannot present a leader in the 2024 election if he's not credible. So credibility matters in the 2024 general election. And secondly, the most important factor is that how is your candidate going to raise revenue to come out of the crisis we are in? That is the debt stock, the crisis we face as a nation, the inflation, the value of the city. These are the principal points that we all have to check. And this time around, the only way for us to win these souls is a one-on-one campaign.
With the electorates?
With the electorates. Because they've lost hope in politicians. Not only in NDC and MPP, they've lost hope in politicians. And they don't believe again that there is hope. But the hope is there. Hassan Eraga is the hope. Hassan Eraga believes in them. And I think that sitting with them one-on-one and giving the kind of policies we want to use to change Ghana, I'm sure they will understand that we need another force, not the NDC and not the MPP. But they are the third force. But if they don't make the decision to change, there will never be a third force. We can do all the rounds and the campaigns. And if they refuse to make a move, then we are doomed. But look at this. I met 2 of your gentlemen going out. Very nice 2 gentlemen who were here with you. We greeted, we had a conversation. You know why? These people don't vote.
The engineers?
Yes, these are the elite who can make a proper decision for Ghana. They refuse to vote because they are tired of the NDC and the MPP duopoly and mismanagement and corruption. Those who vote are the 4.55 million Ghanaians of the MPP who are the die-hard, who do not, most likely don't even understand democracy. Okay? They come out to vote based on monetary values and things.
Right.
And they will make the decision of the 7 million elite people who have refused to come out. So, 2 ways. You either sit down and allow somebody to vote a president for you, or you come
or
out.
You participate in the process.
So now it's the participation that we need them to be on board.
I'll come back to talk to you about resources, because running election in this country is no child's play.
Yeah, that's
I mean, you need money and you need hard money.
Yes.
The people you are competing with, they've been in and out of power before. They control virtually every sector of the economy, if you like. I mean, even our state-owned enterprises have been politicized to the extent that people raise money for political parties here and there. But you are operating from zero. How are you going to compete with people who are already established?
Okay.
Courage.
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, they're very well established. They've eaten into the very fiber of our society. But that same phenomenon is responsible for the reason why it's difficult to have generations-long businesses in our space, because everything is politicized. So this party comes to power, you see certain businesses begin to go down. This party comes to power. So that politically related business, economic environment that they've created is the reason why we continue to sink and sink and sink. So what is important is that the Ghanaian people who are clamoring for change, I mean, every post will tell you that people want change. Now, that is the best currency for us. It's the highest currency for us. We will do our part by making sure that we give them a reason to change. And that is why the movement for change has started getting a lot of interest, you know, from other political entities like the National Interest Movement, like the Coalition Against Corruption. We have the Ghana First Coalition, and all of them, about 9 of them coming together to say that, you know what, we believe in Alan Martin. We believe in his plan, the great transformational plan for the transformation of this country, and we believe in his candidature. So we are going to support him. This is bringing a lot of confidence in the Ghanaian people that this is a serious movement, and they are coming on board.
Yesterday on my way home, I was listening to a political scientist.
Yes.
Who, after the news conference by this group, who are saying that they've gone back to the MPP. And his argument was that since Alan, you know, broke from the MPP to form his own movement, he's only been moving around at the Ashanti region, Greater Accra, Western Volta region, a few other regions. He's yet to see Alan in the northern part of the country to governor support here and there. Yet he's going to an election where the parties he's seeking to unseat, they have reps in every district, every nook and cranny of this country. So his argument is that you don't appear to be ready, because 2024 is not 2 years or 5 years away. It's just 6 or 7 months away.
Yeah.
Interestingly, you know, when we started a movement, taking advantage of technology, we asked Ghanaians, particularly young people across the country, to volunteer. In our database, we have representation in every region. So before the candidate goes there are young people, boots on ground, in every region, working and mobilizing and organizing for us. You know, I understand the discomfort of even the scientists. You know, they are used to available data, to historical data, and that's what they use. And there's always a limitation to historical data. This election is the election of the unprecedented. And I've said that several times. None of the factors in this election is usual. You know, because of that, every single move might be strategic. So you've seen as after the economic summit that was held, out of which came 150 solutions for building our economy and transforming it, out of the first cluster, which is the economic cluster. Alan says one of the most important demographics is the market. You know, he made a statement that if you want to know the true state of the economy, go to the market. So he's taking his message to the market. And that has gone to the Greater Accra region, the Volta region, the Eastern region, the Central region, and the Western region. That is covering 5 out of the 60.
Right.
And we'll continue to engage all others. The most important thing is that, are they hearing the message? Are they taking the message? In the Western region, they're like, to wait. Yeah, to Obama NPP and NDC, I want you to wait. We voted for the NPP and the NDC several times. They've not been able to deliver for us. So come and save us. That is where our confidence lies. And these are market women.
Let me
Come so that I can bring in.
Let me help you.
Let me help independent presidential. It's also joins us via Zoom. But I'll allow Mr. Hassan Yariga a few minutes, then I'll bring you Mr.
Let me help you in something. I'm just going to propose to you and your candidate. I think Alan needs to build certain credibility now, and that credibility has to do with he detaching himself from the MPP a few months ago, and if he's able to build that credibility, to detach himself from the woes of the MPP and what they perform.
Hasn't he done that already?
Yeah,
I don't think.
You don't think he does that?
Okay.
You think he's still attached to the MPP?
I'm only appealing to them. That's what I think they should do now. Because it's very important. Because anybody who's going to look at Alan Chirmanti's performance will tag him with the MPP and said, oh, you just came out of the party, you say it's not good. But you were part of the party in the last 8 years.
And more important, whatever he wants to lay claim to, you have to trace back to the MPP.
You have to trace back to the MPP. So I would say work on that. Yes, work on that. I mean, we all want to take power, but I'm just giving you free consultancy. All right. Work on that and try and build on that, very important, and then you can move forward. And then one other thing that I realized they did that I didn't like as a movement was to impose one candidate on all of them. To say, okay, Alan is going to be our candidate. Which they should have allowed that to happen. They say, okay, Abu Sankara and everybody comes. We say, okay, let's do a vote.
No,
who should lead the movement?
I think I'll help here.
Yes. Okay, please come in so that I can bring you the
There were several engagements leading to that outcome.
Oh, okay.
And so this was a consensus decision
by
all
of them.
All the parties. And they said that, no, we want you to be our leader and we'll support you. In fact, even on the matter of running mates, none of them is clamoring for it. They're saying, let's sit around the table. Let's have a conversation. What we want to do is very important. And let's find out who can best complement your personality, what you bring on board. And we have always maintained, Alan, since 1992, all he sought to do is to help build the nation. He identified the NPP as the platform to do that. And whether it is NPP 1 under President Kufuor or NPP 2 under President Kufuor, he has given a good account of himself in terms of what he's capable of doing.
Right.
And I was left with one thing to say before you cut. I wanted to say one more.
Yes. Just
Okay.
Let me bring in George Chum Berima, an independent presidential aspirant who is also joining this conversation. Mr. Berima, you're welcome to the pause.
Thank you so much.
Right. So we are discussing, how you are energizing yourself ahead of the December elections. I have in the studio Mr. Hassan Yariga himself, the presidential candidate of the APC and then communication manager with the Alan Chirmanti's movement. From your own point of view, how is it going? And are you absolutely certain that this is not going to be a fruitless exercise?
Not at all, and good afternoon to your listeners. I'm here currently in Bolga, just entered. I'm here for a few days. And so far, I see this election purely as a David, which is me here, and two Goliaths. And one thing I agree with the gentleman in the studio is this election is going to be different. And I am so sure that for the first time, the NDC and the NPP shall fall this time. This election, I don't see them actually winning this election. The whole of last year, I've toured the country and I've begun again. And I see from all the messages and all the data that we collect that it is clear that they are very good, meaning the NPP NDC, at campaigning, but Ghanaians know that they are very bad at management of the country. So I don't see a problem. I am back on the road again, and so far it's been good. And like I said, I see it purely as a David being myself and two Goliaths. So I'm very encouraged.
So for you, what are you telling the people? Tell me about your policies. Okay,
so it's very simple. One of my policies, which I tell them, is EasyCar.
And what is that?
Okay, so EasyCar is basically coming to replace the e-levy. The e-levy takes money from you, but EasyCar is going to give money back to you. So whenever you spend, anytime you spend money, that percentage of the e-levy that goes to government comes to you as a savings. And it's broken into three parts. One part is your pension, one part is for housing, and one part is welfare, which is after every 12 months for the welfare, you can cash out. So it is a form of savings where by the time you are 60 years old, you save enough because it's going to be managed by the tier 2, the tier 2 companies, and it's also in addition to your pension. And for those in the non-formal sector, it is a savings for them, and a pension for them. My other policy is what I call district contract for the youth. Currently, I mean, like I said, I toured all the districts last year, apart from Boku, the two Boku districts, and Pusiga and Garu. And I met so many youth. I interacted with them, and their main thing was no job, unemployment. Meanwhile, so many contracts come to the districts every year, every month.
Right.
So this policy is to ensure that contracts that come to the districts that are like not complicated, not like, I mean, building a road or a hospital, but for classrooms and all the other things, is given to the youth in that district. Sanitation is given to the youth in that district. Feeding, that is the schools, the youth in the district. In that case, we are able to empower the youth in the districts to also be able to make income. One other policy is also what I call DDI, domestic direct investment. We have spent so many years talking about FDI, foreign direct investment. For the first time, I'm saying DDI. Everybody who lives in Ghana that uses locally produced materials in Ghana for his or her end product pays very, very, very low taxes. And you get all the government support as well. So these are a few of the policies I'm pushing. And also I'm coming up with a four-day work week. Monday, Thursday we work, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday we are off.
So our weekend will start on Thursday.
Thank you so much. What I call work and happiness. So this gives everybody the time to do their own work, their own enterprise. You have Friday off, you have Saturday off, you have Sunday off. And also we can bank all the holidays to Friday if need be. And this will save us all the problems. So these are what I'm saying.
Let's like more of enjoyment for Ghanaians. Oh.
Work and happiness is what I call it. So every Friday is our day. So
but Mr. Barima, are you able to do this on your own strength? I mean, the call has been made that why don't all of you put your ideas together, your strength together, your resources together, if indeed the ultimate goal is to unseat parties that are so entrenched on the ground?
Okay, I believe that the problem we have in the country is the political party. Like I said, the Constitution says that there will be a president who shall be head of state, head of government, and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. But we've had, for the last 32 years, parties that have replaced the head of state with head of party. So I've always believed that the parties have been our bane, they've been our problem, where they replaced the head of state. And the head of state, one policy that has been taken for all of us to see as the head of state is the free education.
Free senior high school education.
Yes, it is a head of state policy. Every Ghanaian is benefiting. And that is what it must be. So I don't believe in the political parties as a way of going forward.
Right.
When you form a party or a movement or a force, what it means is that when you come to power, only those amongst your movement or party or force are the ones who enjoy. So I see it as everyone coming on board as a head of state president. I bring on board everybody, MPP, NDC, movement people, minority parties, third force. I call everyone to come and help build the country. That is how I see it. I don't believe in forming or joining a movement or a party.
Right. I thank you very much, Mr. George Shumberema. He's an independent presidential candidate for election 2024. Back in the studio, and Hassan Yarga is here. Mr. Yarga, I'm wondering, how are you financing your campaign? Because this is a very expensive venture.
Yeah, it's a capital-intensive venture. It's a lot of money to campaign. It's a lot of money to buy the logistics you need. For instance, if you want to file, let's say, 30 parliamentary candidates, you need about 30 pickups.
Exactly. And I'm even wondering why we are not contesting the Joseph parliamentary by-election.
Yeah, the by-election.
Yes, I mean to test the popularity of the party and your candidate there.
We decided to sympathize with them because of what happened in the Echisu by-elections. We think that for us, it's not an opportunity for us to just show our face. No. Plan well, execute your plan, and you don't need to test anything, and you succeed. We believe that we need to win the 2024 elections. I'm being sincere with you. A minimum of 50 million to 100 million.
Dollars?
Yes.
This is, for example, for just the APC campaign budget. For any party.
Any party.
Between 50 and 100 million dollars.
Movement. You need to spend at least from here to the 9 months, at least a minimum of $10 million
$10 million every month. And how are you raising $10 million every month?
We're not raising it, we're working on it. Whatever we have.
The money must come from somebody.
No, yeah, it's coming, but whatever we have, we spend. Whatever we want to have, we do. Just imagine you going around every day from one community to another. Fuel in the car. Fuel has become so expensive.
Right.
Okay. T-shirts are very, very expensive. To acquire a T-shirt now is about 30 Ghana, 35 Ghana cedis. So assuming you are getting 1 million T-shirts, that is over 35 million Ghana cedis to acquire. And people don't have the money to pay for the T-shirts. They expect you to give the T-shirt free.
Of course.
Then banners. We've done a lot of banners. Those small banners you saw in town, each one costed us 200 Ghana cedis.
And the billboards?
And the billboards about 1,800 for a month. Come again?
Before the rental.
Before, yes. So these are a lot of money we spend. Somebody will be walking the street or driving the street and see us a regular billboard, 1, 2, 3. If you're counting them, you're counting 200 Ghana cedis for one. That's a lot of money because you need visibility. Okay, then you buy pickups, you fuel those pickups. Wherever you go, people are expecting you to donate something before you leave the place. You don't gather 100, 200, 300 people or 400 people. Look, we tried one of the schools. We spent almost 80,000 before we left the school. One university. Because they don't joke with their item 13.
Right.
And if you are calling, let's say, 500 to 1,000 students, and you're going to give item 13 with about 25 Ghana cedis, you're going to pay for the hall, you're going to pay for the place, you're going to pay for music and all that. By the time you leave the school, you've spent 50 to 60,000 Ghana cedis. And that is just for one meeting, among all the meetings. Then those who came with you, they are per diem. Those who are the campaign team, you have to take care of their hotel bills. And
there are staff you need to pay every month.
Yes, and you have their staff here you are paying every month. We have a lot of staff that we pay every month. For us, we employ professionals. We don't just believe in the partisan way. We think everybody should come on board to build Ghana.
And the resources for this, is this coming from your own pocket? Or you have people supporting you?
I will keep that one.
And on what grounds are they supporting you?
I'll be mute on that one. But if Joy FM want to support the APC, you don't actually need to give us cash. Just give us enough more airtime.
But for the sake of transparency, you say you want people, you want to be honest with the electors.
Yes,
and the electors wants to know, how are you financing this campaign?
How we are financing the little we have, we put it in there. Some support us, party members support, because when you go to a community, some of the party members pay for the venue and other things for us. And the little monies we get from donations, from party, dues that we use and add, and whatever I have, we add to.
But those are peanuts considering the amount of money you are telling me, $10 million a month. That cannot be coming from.
The party needs about $10 million to survive.
Courage, how you support? How is Alan financing this movement?
They have money.
I think for us, when you have a candidate who has such international credibility, his performance in private sector and in public sector, he's interfacing with a lot of people, and people know that they can trust him. So people are willing and ready to support his venture with the little that they have. All of us on board, we chip in whatever little we have, because what we want to do is uncommon. And so you don't sit down and think that some money will come from somewhere. But so far, so good. We've got a lot of support from the business community, from well-wishers, from people who feel that, no, something must change in this country. And you represent the change that we want to see. And they say, we put up a platform where people can donate. And through the platform you get 50 cedis, 100 cedis, 200 cedis, 1,000 cedis, and like we say, as it comes into the pool, you're able to use it to do what you have to. But the politics, like he's saying, is really expensive. It is expensive, and it's one of the things that going into the future we'll have to look at as a country.
Yeah.
You know, is this the way to go? You know, is this how we want to do it? For the duopoly, it serves their purposes, it serves their means. So you've not seen any proper attempt at dealing with it. But it's one of the things that we do, and that is why the set objective of the movement is constitutional reform. The constitution we believe in 1992 was a wonderfully crafted political constitution. And so it's ensured that political stability for well over 3 decades. However, in terms of delivering prosperity, development, it does not seem to be too fit for purpose. So it needs to be fine-tuned to achieve that. And we have committed ourselves to doing that with the government of national unity, you know, that would have championed the formation of what we call a national development plan.
And on the finance, I'm sure you've also read claims that you may be getting support from the NDC.
It is falsehood from hell. You know,
no, I mean, if they're even getting support from the NDC, is that a problem?
No, I think, you know, when you are...
As I sit down here, I'm being honest with you. If the NDC bring me support, I will take. If the MPP brings support, I will take. Why not?
Yes.
If they believe in my policy and they are sponsoring it, that means I'm a good candidate.
Okay.
You understand? Look, political parties now, currently the NDC and the MPP, they spend more money than they use in building this country.
That's true.
Yeah. They spend more money on their campaigns, more than what they spend in their communities to transform their communities. Right. And if they can change, instead of spending that money in the vote buying and rather build the community and the society very well, they will get free votes.
And I think this particular election, what I want Ghanaians to do, what I wish Ghanaians would do, will be to take it from the politicians. Take the election
and vote against them.
And decide that this is what, because see, the syndrome of party Hieska, to wait party needs money, has always been the problem. That's why you have people who have been engaged in several corruption allegations, and there's nothing done because they will tell you that part of the money went to finance the party. And that is why it is absolutely important that 2024, we break away from that system. When you do that, for example, Alan Chamati is an independent candidate, you know.
Movement.
He has a movement of mainly young people supporting him. There is no structure, all right, that would say that this is it. What it means is that the winner takes all situation that we've been seeing. NDC wins, you see certain caliber of people, and it doesn't matter your quality or what you have to offer, you are sidelined. NPP wins is the same thing. That thing breaks. Now, he has said that he wants from government of national unity. What it means is that if Mr. George Chumberima has certain expertise, you bring him on board. If there is expertise in the NPP, you bring them on board. In the NDC, you bring in the APC, you bring on board, so that you can have a government that is truly national in character. Outside of the political establishment, why does TUC not have a central place in our governance? Why doesn't the clergy and religious bodies, why doesn't local authorities, the chiefs, why don't they have such a stake? Then we can say we are building a nation. But this situation where we have a group of people, one political party, and everybody aligned to them is what gets the largesse.
It's not going to work.
It is not sustainable.
Let me ask a final question.
In the interest of our democracy.
In wrap it up, I just want to deal with some national issues. But first, Courage. I mean, Ejoso presents fine opportunity to test your popularity, knowing very well that Alan Chematem is partly from Ejoso. Yes. Yet, we are not seeing anybody contesting the by-election on the ticket of the movement. Why?
I think consistent to what we've been saying from the very beginning, that the movement will not sponsor parliamentary candidates, you know, but individuals are at liberty to be inspired by what Honorable Achemartin has done to put themselves up.
Right.
Ejiso by-election is a very important election. We are monitoring it closely, and you feel our footprints one way or the other. We are closely interested in that election.
All right. Berima, let me give you let me allow you come in on your final talks before I wrap up with Mr. Hassan Ayariga.
I agree with Courage that this election, Ghanaians should truly take the politics away from the politicians. I mean, we've had 32 years of the Fourth Republic, and we are actually currently in reverse. So for the first time, Ghanaians can truly take this politics from the politicians. I say this all the time, that it is possible to break the two and build the Ghana we want together without MPP and NDC, but all of Ghanaians. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sir Barima is an independent presidential candidate. Besides Ayariga, two national issues. Before you walked in, we were talking about flooding. And I always remember you with that picture, trying to deal with the flooding issue in your home with all those beautiful vehicles all stuck in the flood waters. And there's also doom. So I don't know which one you want to start with.
I'll start with anyone. I'm an expert in both.
So let's start with doom. So are you feeling it?
Yes. Yesterday, I think I live in the area there in East Legon area. And we had lights out yesterday around 6 in the morning. The lights came back in the evening for 2-3 hours. As we speak now, we have lights out. So my generator works almost every day. Now the situation is that, how did we get here? When we had the former President Mahama and others bought Cal Power and all those kind of generators. I've been saying this over and over again. I'm just going to provide solutions to this crisis.
Let's hear you out.
Good. We have the northern sector of Ghana, that there's so much sunshine. Right now, the situation there is very hot. Why can't we design solar panels to serve that sector, that we have free sunshine that people are using to dry GhIE, Moko, and all that? Why are we not thinking along that sector? That it's free for us. So
there's already one at Navrongo which we can replicate in the other part.
We can build those ones around those places and change their grid to solar. Then we have the coastal areas. Free wind. We have the wind wheel. If you go to Germany, that's what they use. Most of the companies in Germany don't even buy credit, power from the national grid. They put on their own wind wheel. Even our home, some people, you see it very long and then it has a 3-bar rolling. So those coastal areas, the wind is free of charge. We don't even sometimes it takes their roofs. Let's put there and serve along those area, coastal area. And then the national grid will be used to serve those people who are not around the coastal area or the middle belt. This is simple. And then, how do we process it? Look, one time I made mention that if the ECG cannot manage ECG, they should give it to me. I'll manage it very well for them. We are taxing Ghanaians so much. And because we are taxing them so much, people find ways of doing illegal. And because they do a lot of illegal, you are not getting enough revenue from the ECG. In Germany, where I lived, it was very easy. Everybody gets a flat rate.
Of electricity bill.
Electricity bill, flat rate. We pick homes and they are located.
It doesn't matter the gadgets.
It doesn't matter. Just give them flat rate. Everybody will pay. So this building, you give a flat rate of 500 Ghana cedis. Every building in Ghana, give it a flat rate. Everybody will pay. It doesn't matter whether you have a meter or not. Nobody. They'll pick them according to their house numbers, design it in every community, and give flat rate. I am telling you that the generation, the income we are going to get is 10 times better than what we are getting.
Government response, and for some, there appears to be lack of leadership in resolving this matter, because we are not hearing from from the energy ministry, the president, and all those issues.
They should consult me to help them in that aspect. And I'm not joking. I'm very serious about it, because you see, we are struggling. In Germany, for instance, what they did was that companies consume more, and they were paying very less. The more you consume, the less you pay.
Even in Ghana, it is the same. There's industrial tariff, which is lower than residential.
Yes, residential. But you see, most people go to work in the morning, and they get back home by 5. So the consumption of high electricity at that time is lower in the residential areas and higher in the offices. So you have to schedule your load shedding in a way that, even if you cannot, find a way of making sure that you switch the distribution channel very properly.
Courage, your thoughts on this?
All of this is at the heart of a leadership that is committed to doing things right. You know, whether it is the monopoly of ECG, Cocoa Board, or any other, all of them, all our national institutions or agencies that are having a certain monopoly are struggling. They are not doing well. And that is because mostly the people we put there do not have the requisite expertise and to get things done. And that is because the leaders we have do not have the right commitment to getting things done right. I mean, look at Cocoa. If Cocoa does not pay GhIE for a loan, it's unable to buy and sell cocoa. That alone doesn't work. ECG, from JHS, when I became a bit conscious about national issues, transmission losses here and there, it's the same issues, and decades we've not been able to do anything about it. So you need first a leadership that is committed to getting things right, to getting our institutions to be efficient. That is all. When you have that in place, then you look at it. Is it the best? I heard Asante Hini make a very important call that we should allow private sector participation in that space. And it's something that Alan has been talking about for years, that, see, private sector has even the capital. I mean, with the way our economy is structured today, we shut ourselves from the international financial market. We shut ourselves from the domestic market because of the domestic debt exchange that we did. So the only opportunity we have is private capital. So open it up. Let private capital come in. And when private money is in anything, they are very much insistent on corporate governance. That makes sure that the decisions that are made are in the best interest of this institution. And it will work. It is not rocket science. Flooding.
Just 30 seconds on it because we are running out of time.
Why should it happen that in 2024, after every 30 minutes of rain, the entire place gets flooded? One, lack of enforcement. We have a leadership that's not committed to enforcing any law. Then, poor planning. And so when these two are not taken care of, and what that means is that everything rises and falls on leadership. And that is why for this year's election, Ghanaians must elect the leadership that has the proven capacity and the integrity to do right by Ghana.
All right, thank you very much.
And to that extent, I will throw an invitation to our senior, Honorable Ayariga, to join us. You should come and join the movement.
I think you made it clear, senior.
Senior, of course. So the juniors should join the senior. All right. So,
and then I want him to know one thing.
Right.
It would have been good for Alan if he had formed a party rather than the movement. No, you don't understand why I'm saying this. Because, you see, movement after election, you are gone.
All right.
But if it's a party, the 6 million people who run out to the MP.
Another forum for that, Mr. Ayariga. Thank you so much. Hassan Ayariga is the presidential candidate of the APC. And, of course, Courage is head of communication for the deputy head of communication. Another name is Change for Revolutionary. Movement for change.
The election, but the nomenclature for the alliance.
We wish them well.
Of course. Right. So for more stories, log on to our website, myjoyonline.com. Doomsor Finance Ministry failed to pay power generators over 1.2 billion under the Gas Water Flow mechanism. That's according to a PLC report. PLC currently in a meeting to respond to ECG. The Energy Minister is also making news on myjoyonline.com. Visit myjoyonline for these and more. My name is Elton Brobe. We shall meet tomorrow same time between 3 and 4:30 for another exciting edition of The Pulse. Until then.